Hey there, emerging expat! You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm Victoria from Expats Everywhere's podcast, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you, YouTube travelers, and our resident of Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kalie. Each week they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, Kalie, Josh, and I discuss our recent trip to Luxembourg, comparing our experiences and diving into the cultural differences between Luxembourg and Portugal.
Hey, expats and travelers alike, welcome back to Expats Everywhere presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast, where we switch it up a little bit this week.
Ooh.
But I want to know, Kalie, how you doing?
Oh, I thought that was the switch up. I was like, ooh, what are we switching up? Actually, I know the answer to that, but I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well too. I'm just getting over a little bit of a cold. Well, hopefully I'm getting over it. But
yeah.
But we have sunny days ahead, and that is very, very nice. So this week we actually switched up by talking about Luxembourg and its connections to Portugal, and they're not so obvious.
No, it's not at all.
Certainly
actually.
not obvious on the surface.
Mhm.
However, I think many people that live in Portugal, or I should maybe say Portuguese, know some of the connections.
Yep.
And they'll draw those connections pretty fast.
Well, our Uber driver definitely did when we were on our way to the airport.
You're
For
right. Yeah, it was like, where are you headed? And then we told him, and he was like,
Oh, yeah.
A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, we know.
Yeah. So maybe obvious for the Portuguese, but not so much for the non-Portuguese speakers.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
If you're new here, how we like to structure these podcasts is we start out with a little introduction from Victoria, who's our podcast producer. And then we move into this portion, which we call the weekly welcome, where we welcome you to the podcast and tell you what's going on in the world of expats everywhere and how it relates to Portugal, which it mainly does, certainly for this podcast. And then we get into the entree of the show, which today is about Luxembourg.
Right. But it's not just us. We do have Victoria on because
Yeah.
she went to Luxembourg with us. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
I think she had different thoughts on it, but
Yes, she definitely had a different take on it. It was our second time there. It was her first. And yeah, she had a different take on it. But before we get into that,
Mhm.
what's happening?
Well, this past weekend, we put out on the main channel a video with Diogo, an immigration lawyer, where we really talked about renewals.
Yeah.
So we've had him on the channel before. We've actually had him on the podcast as well. And but this video was specific about renewing your residency card. Fun stuff.
Yes.
It's a bit of a mess right now.
Yes.
But he gave some good information, stuff to know, like that you're not illegal if it's expired, what to do if it's expired, how you can get through to IMA, or at least try. So good information there.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say not as all lost. Right?
No.
Like, it's really tricky because some people are not just watching the video, but talking in expat channels and communities and whatnot pre-move. And they're like, I'm not moving there. It seems like a complete mess. Like the administration of things seems awful. Da, 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 da. I think the problem is, from what we can tell, Portugal is like one of the most talked about places in Europe. And what I mean by that is like the type of in-depth information that's happening here, I don't see it happening as much in other parts,
other
around.
Countries.
Yeah. Like you don't see people banging the drums about this in, at least it's a different drum in Spain.
Yeah.
You have some people criticizing Italy, but you don't hear about it as much in Greece or France, which are all popular places for expats to go.
So you're saying that there could be bureaucratic nightmares in those countries, but it's not talked about as much.
I think so.
So before you say, well, I'm going to go to this other European country, beware. They all have their red tape. Every place does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who's great at it? I don't know. Singapore was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Well, and also, I guess what I mean is like, if your main source of these comparisons or comparing these countries is YouTube, I don't tend to find people in France, Spain, and Greece, let's say, doing the same content or covering the same kind of immigration issues that we do.
Now, do you think that's because they just don't exist, or that's just not getting covered on YouTube?
Bo? Oh, I see what you mean by exist.
Exist like the
I
bureaucratic
thought you meant
issues.
the channels exist.
No.
No, I think that there's got to be some level of it existing. To what degree, or is it worse than Portugal? I don't know, but nobody's covering it.
Right.
So like if things are going well, or when things start to go well in Portugal, we're going to report on it.
Right.
Like we will report when there's an upswing in IMA applications, renewals, let's say, or even applications that are happening. Why? Because it's like it's newsworthy. It's something that we believe that you all would like to know. So we'll try to put it in a nice, tidy piece of content and make it make sense or give context to it.
I like your optimism. When
no,
it will happen.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it
no,
will. Of course.
Happen.
I mean, it has to, right? Like it's not going to continue on like this.
Look,
they're working through the backlog.
Yeah, one of two things will happen. It either will improve and things will carry on and go well, or it won't improve and people will ultimately look for other places to go. So by doing that, reducing the number of renewals, number of front-end applications or first-time applications, let's say, and then therefore like the workload just figures itself out.
Yeah.
Like I don't see that it continues the way it is. And what I mean by that is like poorly or below average.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of applications just keep rolling in as is. It could happen, but I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I think it'll be bad PR overall, and that'll slow things down.
I think it already kind of is a little bit of bad PR, like since a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, they know it's an issue and the government's trying to do things to fix it. So yeah, we might already see a slowdown in applications because of people thinking I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And the problem with this stuff is like the numbers always lag.
Yeah.
Like if it's government reported numbers, they lag. So it becomes a challenge to know like actually what's happening in the moment. But, let's see. I would say, quarter one of this year has been a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The volume's been a lot, but we don't have the numbers on them yet.
True.
So, okay. Well, what else is happening with content? We're putting out a lot about Luxembourg and we're doing a lot of stuff about Luxembourg, and we still have to catch up on some other places that we visited on our second channel, Expats Everywhere Explorers. We got to get busy on that channel again.
I know.
So,
well, for right now, it's been a little tricky because we are heading to the U.S. and on a trip, and we'll be gone out of Portugal at least for 5 weeks. So it's just been a lot of, okay, let's set this in place, a lot of production, a lot of filming, shooting that we can get done so that we don't have to do it while we're traveling or while we're away because of having to take everything with us.
Yes.
So I think that stuff's been the priority.
And I actually have not asked Kalie this, but I'm going to ask it live while you're here. When are we going to do the weekly welcome for next week's podcast? Are we going to do it on Sunday? Because we actually travel on Monday next week.
Right. So normally we film these on Mondays and then the episode goes out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But because we travel on Monday, we'll have to do it on Sunday.
All right.
A day early. And then from there, we'll have a different setting. If you're watching on YouTube, the background will be different from then on because
we'll sound different because we'll be sharing a mic again.
Yeah. Is that what we're going to do?
It would be like the good old days.
So bear with us for those couple of episodes. Maybe every time you'll probably mention if the sound isn't great. Well, I mean, it's still a road mic. It's just.
Yeah. And again, it's just the weekly welcome, which, by the way, if you stuck around these 7.5 minutes, you have the option certainly on YouTube to just skip ahead with the chapter. If you're listening on some sort of streaming platform, you can always like double tap to jump ahead 30 seconds or whatever it is on your podcast platform.
Right.
But usually around the 10-minute mark, it changes 10 to 11-minute mark.
But those weekly welcomes might be a little interesting because we'll be moving around. We'll be in the U.S. for a little bit. We'll be on the cruise. So you'll get a bit different feel of what we're doing. So that might be kind of interesting because it won't be here in Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's that stuff, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked with Victoria about our recent trip to Luxembourg that we took middle of March.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Middle of March, like just literally a couple weeks ago. We also spoke with several Portuguese people that are living in Luxembourg, and we discussed that. We kind of do a little deep dive into our thoughts and the patterns we recognized in some of the stuff that they said. But I think ultimately Luxembourg is a really fun trip from Portugal. It's inexpensive to get there.
Expensive to live there.
Okay, the hotels aren't bad.
Right.
And the quality of hotels that we found are good.
Mm-hmm.
But food prices are a bit crazy, which we get into in the podcast.
Right. But wages are higher. So this is all stuff that we talk about because I think Listener, if you're in Portugal or you're planning to move to Portugal, remember after 5 years, if you apply for citizenship, then this unlocks the EU for you. So after living in Portugal for 5 years and, well, after receiving citizenship, which is taking about 1.5 to 2 years or so, you could potentially move to a place like Luxembourg. And this is why we see a lot of Portuguese who have done that because of the openness of the EU. So they've decided to move there and work there. So this is something you could consider. So not just for travel, but also for living.
Yeah.
All right.
You ready?
So we compare. Let's go. Let's go for
get
it.
to it.
But before we do that, let's talk about this week's sponsor, Green Ocean Global Advisors.
Yes, we always recommend, no matter where you are in the moving process, to get your finances in order. So that's in your home country and then the country that you're moving to.
And speaking about homes, what if you sell your house before leaving or do it after? What are the capital gains implications like? Well, a financial advisor will be able to walk you through this type of thing.
And what about distributions? Maybe you have a 401k or a pension and you need to figure out how much you should be drawing from for the lifestyle that you're going to have.
Now, you can use this link in the description section below to talk to John from Green Ocean Global Advisors to see if he's a fit for you. You'll have a free 15-minute consultation just for being an Expats Everywhere listener. So you can use that to get your free 15 minutes. Click the link in the description section below. Now, on to the show.
Victoria, are you ready to do this?
I am ready.
Hi, I'm really excited to talk to you about our trip that we just went on because it's the second visit that Kalie and I have made to Luxembourg, a fantastic little place. And then it's your first time visiting, and I felt like you didn't think it was as fantastic as we did. So the listener is going to be able to find a little more balance, I think, with this one. Plus, you know, our ages being a little different, maybe there are some likes and dislikes just because of that. So what were your first impressions of Luxembourg?
Well, to be honest, going there, I didn't know much about it to begin with, so I had to do a little bit of research. So I really didn't have any expectations going there. But I will say, when I got there, it reminded me a lot of Geneva, which I know I told you guys.
Yeah.
So I went to Geneva a couple years ago, and just the overall feel of the city and the architecture, and they're both very multicultural cities, and it reminded me a lot of Geneva. So that's what I first thought when I got there.
All right, Kalie, and how about for you? Like, what did you feel like it being the second time? Did things feel familiar? Were you prepared?
Yeah, I think it was familiar. When we started walking around a bit, it all like started coming back to me like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I just, while we were there this time, I was like, the weather's so much nicer.
Way
it
more
was like, it
pleasurable.
was so cold when we were there last time. It was Christmas time and it was cold. It had just had like a big snow, but it wasn't snowing, but it was like unseasonably cold, I guess. I mean, it was colder than normal. So it was quite frigid last time we were there. And this time the weather was amazing. It was sunny and, you know, a little bit crispness, I guess, but it was great. So it was as good as I remember, actually maybe better than I remember because we could be outside a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, we actually dodged some bad weather in Portugal.
Yeah,
while like the
perfect.
coast of Portugal was getting battered with rain. And I think Luxembourg is typically rainier or grayer than Portugal at large. We avoided that bad weather in Portugal, and we had beautiful sunny days, or at least clear days in Luxembourg.
Yeah, added perk.
Yeah.
Was it as good as you remembered it?
I think the contrast would be the first time we visited, we had the winter markets, and the winter markets and kind of Christmas look in the old city gave the city, Luxembourg City, a certain like charm and feel.
Almost
It was
magical, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It had this kind of like developed villagey feel.
Yeah.
Not seeing that this time and that stuff being removed, but also being able to explore more on foot because we weren't ice
Freezing.
cubes. It was great because I felt like I got to see a more authentic version of Luxembourg, and that was very cool.
Right. Let's back up a little bit and talk about it. So we all live in Portugal in the Porto area.
Yeah.
And we were able to grab fairly inexpensive flights from Porto. Ryanair. Thanks, Ryanair.
About 65 euros a piece.
Right. For a round trip. So this is one thing that's amazing when you live in Europe, that you can get around on some of these, especially if you're going to do like budget airlines. I mean, we didn't pay for any bags. We all had a backpack. It has to be small.
Well, let's explain that for a second. So generally when we travel, we don't get asked to place our bag within the little like thing that they check your bag. It's like
dimensions,
it
is tiny.
So we all decided to pack basically personal items. It's not a checked bag and it's not a carry-on bag because you have to pay for those. But you do get for free this personal
item that's supposed to fit in the seat in front of you, underneath the seat.
Yeah, so I have a camera bag that I needed to pack to move the equipment so Victoria and I could shoot some stuff. And therefore, about 2/3 of the bag was filled with electronics, and then 1/3 for my clothes that I needed to last me basically 3 days. And I guess it looked too big, and the guy was like, "You need to put that in this form to see if it fits."
Which I said you might have that problem the day before. I was like, "What bag are you taking?" And I was like, "I don't know. You might have a problem." So then you didn't have to end up paying.
No, but he's like, well, I said to him, I was like, look, I've put this underneath the seat of every Ryanair
we fly
flight
Ryanair
I've
a
ever
lot.
been on. It's generally my personal item anyways. I'll have a backpack as like the thing I use as my carry-on that I pay for. And then this camera bag. And he's like, well, it still needs to fit in that thing. And I was like, all right, but I have like camera equipment in here. So I don't want to put it up above anyways. And he's like, yeah, but it still needs to fit in there. You can take the camera equipment out. And I was just scratching my head like, what is the point? He's like, dude, it just needs to fit in there. And I was like, all right, fine.
Let me just do my job. Put the bag in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I stuffed it in there and it fit.
The good thing, though, is like yours definitely looks smaller than Victoria's. So
yeah, I was, because mine was like bulkier. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to make me like, I have to pay extra or something. But no.
Yeah.
On the way back, mine was small. Mine was great. So I was like, okay, I will actively show the person mine. You two turn the other way.
Yeah. I was doing a crab dance trying to walk past the
guy. But no issues. That's funny. But there was on the way back that one lady who had a huge bag, way bigger than both of yours. And the guy was like, yeah, he said he wanted her to put it in. And what she just said on the way from Porto, it was fine. And so then he was like, okay.
Well, no. She took a bunch of stuff out. She took a bunch of stuff out, dropped it in the hole, and then repacked the bag. Like, right there. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just, okay. So, but that being said, so if you fly like Ryanair or EasyJet, be aware of that.
Yes.
But this is the great thing when living in Portugal or living in Europe, anywhere, you can pop around to these different places. And so we did it quite affordably. We left. Although I would say it was probably affordable because we left way too early Saturday morning. I do not like that.
Saturday.
It was a Saturday morning. The flight was at like 6:15, so that was no fun.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing in the world to do, but it did give us all day Saturday.
Yes.
So that was helpful. And then we came back Monday evening. So it was a good long time, 3 full days it felt like.
And we stayed in the European quarter, just one stop from the European Parliament was the name of the stop, I believe.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
It was actually in between the European Parliament and then the other one was
Philharmony. That one.
There we go. The Philharmonic building. So that was actually a nice location, definitely for business travelers. And I think because of that, it would be busier Monday to Friday. Because we arrived on a Saturday and we were there Saturday, Sunday, it was pretty chill.
It was quiet.
It was pretty quiet. The roads were even deader than in Portugal
on a Sunday. Yeah. That's true. Victoria, I have a question for you. You said you didn't know much about Luxembourg, so you had to research. So within your research, what kinds of things did you find?
Well, I watched your old video on it.
Right. That's funny.
And I found out that it's a very wealthy country, which I had no idea, and that it's the only existing like duchy. So they have a duke there. And just, some very basic service level things just to know a little bit. Because I also wanted to go in with not too many expectations.
Yeah.
I just want to get an idea, more or less. So
yeah,
that's a really good idea.
Well, then what did you think about the wealth, the richness of Luxembourg?
I mean, if you can afford it, then, there's no problem. But I mean, if you're coming from a country that is, poorer, then it can be hard to really enjoy if that's something that you're, always worrying about. So, I mean, it's hard to going from the context of Portugal to Luxembourg and trying to justify their prices,
Okay.
then you have to keep in mind that their salaries are a lot higher.
Yeah.
So
When you go out here in Portugal, what are like some of the general prices that you pay for like a lunch or a dinner? Or I know you don't drink coffee, but like if you're having a coffee break, let's say going and getting a snack with somebody, like what are some general prices that you pay?
So I'd say something pretty reasonable for like a lunch or dinner is around 10 euros. I personally would try to keep it 8 to 10 if I am able to. But it's, normal. If you're going somewhere nicer, like especially for dinner, I'd say between 10 to 15 is pretty normal for me. And then, for like a little coffee, it's like maybe 80 cents to a euro, more or less. So
Yeah, and water, like getting bottled water, how much is that?
like euro maybe.
Yeah. And when you're going out to lunch, like what's the standard of the place that you're going? Are we talking about like going fast food or a shopping mall food court, or are you able to go into local or international restaurants?
So I would say for fast food and then for like local, I'd say it's kind of the same. It depends on the fast food restaurant. Yeah, because like McDonald's is always like really cheap. It's always a safe option. But I'd say, anywhere from like 8 to 15 between fast food and local, I'd say.
So then were you surprised when you saw the prices at restaurants in Luxembourg?
Yeah. Some of the like entree, the appetizers were like as much as I would pay for like the actual meal. I was like, oh my gosh, who pays this much for like chicken nuggets?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, looking at prices and speaking concretely, I think the cheapest bottle of water that we saw in a restaurant was 3. Most of the time it was 4 to 5. A small beer was the cheapest 4.50, but it'd be like 4.50 to 5.50, and then a pint would be like 7.50 to 8, depending on where you were. The kebab shops, I think, were the cheapest meals that you could get. We didn't go into any fast food restaurants, did we?
We did have tacos.
Tacos.
Fast
Yeah.
food?
That's like the local fast food. Yeah, so there you could get a meal under 10, but it would probably be more like 7 plus. Between 7 and 10, you could fill up there.
For fast food. I mean, we obviously didn't go into like McDonald's or Burger King, but one would assume that that's similar, that you could get a value meal for 10, around 10, maybe under.
Yeah. And then, menu of the day or plate of the day would be, I think the cheapest we saw was probably 14.
Yeah, which is a lot more actually, because like we were just in Gondomar, filming.
Yeah.
And we went
Gondomar or Gundamar?
Gundamar. Okay.
Gondomar.
And we went to a meal. I had a lunch menu of the day. It was $6.50.
Was it 6.50 or 7.50? I think it was 7.50.
$6.50.
But either way.
I think we added something, dessert or something. I don't know. Anyway. I think it was $6.50. I don't know.
Right,
now I have to go back. We have to go back and because we filmed the sandwich board.
It was $7.50.
$7.50. Okay, but
I paid
still
$17.50 because I ended up getting the $2.50 dessert added on.
Couldn't resist.
Well, I wanted to do it
exists.
for the camera.
Oh,
I wanted to be able to film
for
it.
you, viewer, then.
Yeah.
Viewer and listener. You can see. You can see. Yeah, that'll be a city guide. But
Here today, gone tomorrow.
Gosh, please with the jokes.
Sorry.
So anyway, just give me some context. Like obviously that's just a little bit outside of Porto, but you can still find, even around Porto, you can still find a meal. $7.50. Some of the places outside the touristy areas, right? That's probably like, and that's for like a plate, like a not fast food.
Listen,
you probably can't find that in
I know
Luxembourg.
one for $7.50 that's right by us. I'm not shouting it out.
Oh yeah, no, shh.
Because we want to keep it
that one. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
All the locals would be very upset.
It's always
shouted that out
with locals. Anyway, but so we can obviously see a big difference in, well, we know salaries and minimum wage and everything, and then like average salaries are way higher in Luxembourg, but then cost of living is higher as well.
Well, I mean, that was one thing that we ended up discussing on this trip, which is that the median income is 81,000 euros gross, which is bonkers compared to what it is here in Portugal.
which is, what is it? We didn't look it up. It's like around 30 something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was just under 30.
Median.
Median, yeah.
Yeah. So
Big difference. But we also don't see McLarens, Ferraris, Porsches driving around either.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would want to drive one of those around the cobblestone streets of downtown.
No, it actually is probably nice. It probably has really good suspension, right? It feels nice, smooth.
I don't know if those sports cars are built like that. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Teslas, though. Lots of Teslas around here. I don't remember seeing as many there. Maybe.
Oh. Yeah.
Tesla's more
No, but they
popular
were
here.
they were equipped for EVs.
Oh,
you
yeah.
had charging stations.
No, I saw loads of those. Yeah,
abound.
like big parking lots and stuff with them. I'm just saying, I don't remember seeing as many Teslas. I think you see more Teslas here in Portugal.
Yeah.
Or in Porto, at least, where we are.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So, what did you think about the different quarters of Luxembourg?
Well, I noticed a big difference, I guess just in the vibe. When we went to the train station versus like an actual historic center. Just maybe in the historic center, I had like more nice restaurants, more tourists, of course. Around the train station was more maybe like the locals. A lot of younger people too. When we went to that Otako fast food place, but I did notice a big shift in the two different quarters. Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, I will say the near the train station, it kind of made me feel more like I was in Porto. Just some of the maybe the type of people that were there.
We saw some people drinking Sagres and walk around there.
Super back, I was like, this is back in Porto,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Did you feel unsafe?
not unsafe, because I was with you guys, so I knew it would be okay. But maybe I was just a little bit more aware of my surroundings, for sure.
Yeah.
But not really super unsafe.
Well, there was the moment when we were traveling as a band of four, three adults in Valencia, but there was one moment where we asked you if you wanted to go film on your own, as Kalie and I posted up to watch the poor Arsenal Man United game. And by poor, I mean both the quality on the pitch and the result. But you were fine to walk around, even though it was getting a little darker. But it was in an area that had more of like a villagey feel. I feel like Luxembourg's got these like little micro zones. But then the last day we were there, you had the opportunity to walk around more around the station. It was near the station, which has more of kind of an urban city feel. And you're like, nah, I'll walk around with you instead. So why did you say that?
Well, I think in the little village area, it had less people, and I mean, it was getting darker, but I was still very much aware of my surroundings, and I felt, I don't want to say paranoid, but I was just like always watching my back because I was by myself.
Cautious. Yeah.
But it was still like public enough, and it was a really nice location, so it gave me some time to just explore. And then I think for that other time you said like offered for me to go, explore on my own. I was like, no, I'll just stay with you. Cause how do I explain? It had, more of the urban feel, but I don't know. There was a lot of construction going on, and there was a lot more people, but I just felt safer, staying together.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to explain it.
I want to follow up real quick. Okay. How does that compare to walking around Porto by yourself?
Good question.
I guess it depends on where exactly in Porto, because if it's like Aliados, Santa Catarina, like I walk around there for work. So I'm more used to it, still aware, but there's a lot of tourists around. Of course, a lot of locals too, but it's home, so I feel more, comfortable and safe, but still always aware of my surroundings. If it would be in a location that I didn't know so well, I probably would feel less safe. But I think just because I'm more familiar with Porto, more comfortable there, so I felt more safe.
Yeah, you know the area. What about different parts of Portugal though? Because you've traveled a bit around Portugal. Is it kind of the same thing? Like because it's a bit of an unknown, you're a bit more not paranoid, like you said, but more aware of your surroundings compared to being in the Porto area where because it's home, you know it.
Yeah, I think it depends on which city exactly, because like I would travel a lot for sports, and so if each city they have different types of like vibes and different people that live there, so you kind of have to discern according to each location. Some of course will feel safer than others, but I think just in general it's good to always be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, would we all say that we know what trouble looks like in Portugal?
I guess.
You know what that means?
Yeah, like you don't want to walk into like a sticky situation. You can kind of see it coming.
Just like the way people are dressed, the way their hair's cut, the way they behave, where the location is. Like, would we say that we know what trouble looks like? The reason I ask this is because I recently chatted with someone that we interviewed, Dennis, who lives in Rio Tinto. Kalie actually did the interview, but we chatted a lot about the type of, like, the look of people that are going to cause problems.
Yeah.
And his sons, who are like high school age, they have more of an issue with this, especially like walking around alone, than he does being 40.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like, if what you all think. I mean, you all are females, so you might have a different perspective than me or Dennis.
I don't know. I mean, sure. I guess if you walk by someone, a guy who's walking in a suit with a briefcase, you probably don't think anything of it, as opposed to someone who's got a boom box on their. I mean, that's a thing anymore. A boom box, I don't know, a little. Actually, the small speakers still are a thing around here. Walking with small speakers
In Luxembourg too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Saw that a few
Maybe
times.
something like that. It might catch your attention a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think too. It's kind of interesting since Portugal is meant to be, is a safe place. If you were to like take someone who looks a bit more like a hooligan here and you would drop them into maybe like Berlin, for example, I would probably have more of a heightened sense of like that feels a little more like danger there compared to here. And
Because
it might
location.
because of the location, even if they look exactly the same.
Okay.
And that's just probably because of the safety statistics and of Portugal.
Okay. Victoria?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is there a like a look of what looks dangerous in Portugal? Like, if you're walking down the street and some area looks a certain way or some body looks a certain way, male, female, doesn't matter. You're like, I'm going to avoid that. That looks like trouble.
Yeah, I think it could be someone who walks around like with like drinking a beer. I think it's always something to be aware of. Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is. Maybe I can't describe it properly, but I would. And sometimes you can go by your instincts too. If you like your intuition, if just something just feels off, it's good to trust your gut.
Yeah. Well, even like I would say around Porto and Portugal in general, the homeless people they keep to themselves. I mean, they obviously exist. It's a city. They keep to themselves. But for me, if they're just kind of hanging out, I don't want to walk like right by them. Like I do kind of give myself at least a little bit of distance. Like if I'm walking past one who's just kind of sitting down, maybe having a beer or boxed wine or something, just in case. But they're not. I mean, there's never been any like confrontation or anything. They're quite they keep to themselves. But sometimes I think that's kind of a natural instinct to just kind of be aware that they're there just in case something happens.
Okay.
I don't know. Although, so then in Luxembourg, though, I actually don't remember seeing any homeless people.
No.
We definitely saw people
We saw
drinking
people
beer.
drinking on and it was always Sagadish.
Sagadish or Superbuck. Yeah.
Which we should get to why that is in a second. But
yeah, I mean, I actually passed through the stores and I saw, like, I would see in grocery stores, I would see in like the beer section, they would have in the stores, either Sagerish or Superbock, sometimes both, and they were generally the cheaper beer option or the cheapest beer option.
Right. Which, I mean, there's a lot of Portuguese in Luxembourg.
Yeah, I mean, let's definitely come on to that, because one of the things that maybe Kalie and I didn't really explore when we first were in Luxembourg, which we knew about this, but we didn't really explore it, were all the languages. Like, there's a ridiculous amount of languages that are spoken there. But this time, going in, being aware that we do have a fluent Portuguese speaker among us, we wanted to kind of
It's not me.
see what that was like. We had two, actually, Valencia and Victoria. So we wanted to see what that was like, because there is a high population of Portuguese or people of Portuguese descent living in Luxembourg. And in fact, two of the receptionists at the hotel, two of the four that we met, were Portuguese. So, yeah, what did you think about that?
I was surprised, because like I did a bit of, in my research, I saw, there's a lot of Portuguese there, and then come to find out some of them at our hotel, and even like on the metro, we were sitting next to a Portuguese family, which it didn't register at first. And then I was like, oh yeah, they are Portuguese. So that was really interesting. That was really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was surprised. We knew obviously about how many Portuguese live there, and actually, what was funny is when we caught an Uber from Porto, the early morning Uber. We were speaking with the driver, and he was telling us, we were saying, oh, we're going to Luxembourg, and he was like talking about how, there's a lot of Portuguese there. So I think everyone knows that there's a lot of Portuguese there.
He grossly overestimated how many Portuguese there were.
That's fine, though.
He was like 60% of the country's Portuguese.
Like, okay, maybe not that much. But the thing is, though, so yeah, you'd be like on the tram and you'd hear Portuguese. It would just feel normal, because you're like, oh, but then you think, oh, wait, I'm not in Portugal, but I hear Portuguese. But then also, we were oftentimes greeted in French.
Yeah.
I think French
was
was like the first one.
Yeah.
Then you've got the language of Luxembourgish, which kind of sounds a little like German. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we have that.
But nobody spoke Luxembourgish
We
to us.
didn't really hear that. Yeah, that was more just like signage, I guess.
Yeah.
But French seemed to be like the go-to.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we heard English and Portuguese. Oh, and then we went into an Italian
restaurant.
place. And
Italian,
then it was
yeah.
Italian.
Had a lot of
So-
talents.
Yes. So there was quite a variety of languages going on there. It kind of, you just don't know which one to start in then. I mean, okay, I can only go with two, but like choose one of those and go. But which one do you go with if you know multiple languages?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can speak English. You can rock up there and speak English. However, I think that if you are a French speaker, that should be the default.
Yeah.
Like, everybody will get on with that regardless. But certainly you can get by with English just as well as Portuguese.
Right. So, Victoria, I have a question for you. When you were speaking Portuguese with different people, how did it sound? Did it sound different to what you're used to here in Porto?
Well, yeah, I would say so. Because I think I spoke with a receptionist, and her Portuguese was good. I think maybe just accent was different, but the actual grammar and stuff was good. And then I think the only other time I spoke in Portuguese was to the waiter, and who spoke Italian, but he understood everything I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I actually think. Yeah, but when I would hear, the other Portuguese people speaking, it just sounded like normal Portuguese. Maybe I didn't have enough time to, recognize the accent. Yeah, but I heard that a lot of people from Coimbra go there, interestingly enough. So.
Yeah, we actually met a few different, like when we'd ask where they were from, it was Coimbra.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't pick that accent out, though.
No, I couldn't either.
No, I mean, like, when I hear someone from Lisbon speak, I can pick up on it. When someone tells me, when I'm speaking with someone from Alentejo and they tell me that that's where they're from, it's like, okay, I can hear there's a difference. Didn't realize that's where it was, but I can hear it. And then the islands, obviously, like if you meet someone from the Azores or from Madeira, then you can hear
it's
it a
hard.
bit more.
Yeah, it's hard to understand those.
Yeah, even the Algarve, they can have a pretty strong accent too.
Yeah, I guess I don't really come across.
Everyone speaks English
Algarvians.
there.
Well, no, I just don't, because we haven't been down to Algarve in quite some time. I just haven't come across Algarvians and
Enough.
to hear Yeah, to pick up the difference.
Well, last time we were there, we went into a place. He started speaking Portuguese, and the guy said, "Sorry, I don't speak Portuguese." Can you switch to English?
No, he was like English, mate, and I was like, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, right.
Okay.
Am I in Portugal still?
Yeah. But it was like an Irish pub or whatever. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Still in Portugal though.
Yeah. Okay, so let's actually go back to food a bit. Just now talking about like the culinary diversity. What did you think? What did you both think of the food that we had there?
I mean, I couldn't say what Luxembourgish food is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But looking around, it looks like you can have any cuisine you want there. So quite a variety.
Yeah.
And all felt like it was kind of the same price as well.
Yeah, nothing too.
Maybe
high.
maybe the French like was more expensive. The fine dining kind of French.
Of course, it was.
What did you think of the food quality?
I mean, I thought it was really good. I was really happy with all the food we ate. We didn't try the Luxembourgish food, but
You got that one dish. Yeah,
I
you got
did.
one dish.
Yeah.
Which you can explain that in a second after Victoria finishes.
Yeah.
but yeah, all the food we ate was really good quality, and I was really happy with it. So
Well, and you had your first bit of Thai food.
yeah, I tried Thai food for the first time, and I loved it. It was so good.
And you drank a lot of water.
Drank a lot.
Can we get another bottle of water, please?
Yeah, and I think it was the most expensive water we had, which makes sense. That's like true kind of capitalism economics, you know. It's like we're gonna hit people with spicy food, and we're gonna
charge
make them
more
pay
water.
the most expensive amount for a bottle of water.
That's funny. I do also remember Victoria saying they should give you milk.
Yeah, I need some milk over here.
And Josh and I were like, I don't think it's that spicy.
No. Well, the spice level of yours, was it like a 1 on the?
It was 1, yeah, 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3. And I think mine was 1 out of 3.
Yours was 1, mine was 2.
And it was not
Yours
a 1.
didn't
It was
taste spicy at
bland.
all.
Not bland. No, it was flavorful, but it was not spicy.
Yeah.
I think the 2 was actually our palate's 1.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
You had a red curry.
Okay, but then you had a dish that was Luxembourgish.
Yeah, so we stayed at the Novotel Suite Kirchberg.
Nope.
Is that right?
I don't know how to say that. Sure.
So this was in like we said, this was in the European quarter, and it was around a bunch of other Accor hotels. So they're all connected to the same network. And we decided to go into the Mama Shelter because their restaurant had availability. We could actually like go in on a Saturday night and get a table straight away. And they had a couple menu items that were traditional Luxembourgish food. And then the rest were kind of international, European, whatever.
Yeah.
But I saw this one dish and it was relatively well priced relative to Luxembourg. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try this so that we could at least get one Luxembourgish dish in the video. And it was very much like a chicken mushroom pot pie. And I don't mean like the one that you would throw in the microwave.
Yeah, like a homemade
But
one.
it was a homemade one.
Yeah.
It was nice.
But because it was like the puff pastry type.
Puff pastry, like a cream sauce. The mushrooms were great, like nice, chunky, if you're into that sort of thing. And the chicken tasted like it was really good quality. It was juicy. So, yeah.
So that's...
Okay, it brought me back to my childhood. Shout out to my mom who made a lot of pot pies when I was younger. And I'm talking about the frozen ones, not the fresh ones.
I was going to say, your mom, by scratch making those pot pies?
Yeah, I know my mom's going to listen to this too. They were good. Mom, shout out.
Well, yeah, brought you back to your childhood. So
it did.
A good memory
Comfort
of the childhood.
food.
Yeah.
Comfort food.
Okay, so that was like the only Luxembourgish thing that I even remember seeing.
I think we had one Luxembourg wine, I believe. It was hard to find though. It was Then you have otacos, which is dubbed as French tacos, which basically are, let's call them grilled burritos, right? Grilled wraps,
like pressed
wraps, like
yeah.
panini pressed almost.
But you can't call them a panini. It's a little different, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, a panini is a sandwich, or should be
bread. Yeah, it's a pressed
pane.
But they're pressed like hard, like thin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think you can get a burrito and you can get it pressed, but it's kind of just to like warm it.
Think Crunchwrap Supreme. Taco Bell.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
mean,
thin.
like legit, it is a fast food joint, and you can customize
Everything.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
I think they're good. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we've eaten there in a couple different countries. I actually think the first time we ever ate at an Otaco's was that very Otaco's. But we were trying to keep
Bad
costs down.
station, right?
Basically,
Station.
when we were there, we were attempting to eat kind of one reasonably priced meal or healthy meal, and then one where we would actually go and have a sit down, like a proper sit down meal. And then we had grocery store breakfasts where we just got like, pastries,
fast, yeah.
cereal, milk. Our total food budget for the 4 of us for 3 days was, do you remember, it was like $460?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So not tragic. It could have been worse.
Well, I mean, if you don't do big breakfasts, and obviously we didn't have it included in the hotel, so that's another thing.
Hotel's 26 euros
Per person. Josh was
Which we
so
did not
chuffed that he got breakfast the first day
for 15.
for 4.
For 4 people for two mornings.
It did last us 2 mornings.
Yeah.
Also, we did go into that one healthy place, Eki.
Oh, yeah.
Spain, yeah.
Yeah, is that Luxembourgish?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I've seen Ekis in other parts of Europe.
Okay.
I mean, while we talk, I can look that up, but I'm pretty sure it's European. It might be French.
I wonder, where it originated from. But that was nice because you could choose, and that was like a healthy alternative. Because sometimes when you travel a lot and you're always eating out, it can just feel like, I'm just eating too much food,
Yeah. Always with the French fries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like it's from Belgium.
Oh, okay.
Which, we actually did see one when we were in Belgium. It was near our hotel.
Okay.
We just didn't eat there.
No.
But it's decent. It's like a Panera or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Although I don't know if Panera necessarily positions itself as healthy.
Right.
I think, when you have a carrot as your logo, the way that Eki did,
You're really going for
you're going for the health vibe.
Yeah.
That, or you're trying to appeal to rabbits.
Bring the rabbits in.
Yeah.
There's not much of a market for that.
Or
so.
noseless snowmen.
You want your nose back?
We
Come
got
in here.
it here.
Oh,
I think Valencia liked it.
Yeah.
She liked it. She liked the logo. She thought it was cute.
Carrots. Yeah.
Yeah, but food wise, I felt like the variety was really great, and the prices, because they were all about the same. You didn't have to discriminate a certain restaurant because of price.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But still, much more expensive food out than Portugal overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One observation I did make, and this is for people that do like pubs, is I found the pubs that we walked into to be cheaper than other, let's say, apart from Southern Europe. Yeah, actually, this kind of goes for Spain as well. I found it to be cheaper than
other pubs around Europe?
other pubs around Europe. Yeah, I mean, we were paying $7.50 to $8 for a pint. And honestly, nowadays, like, you can go to Toulouse. We were just in Toulouse or in Brussels, and you're paying about the same, if not more. But keeping in mind the fact that in Luxembourg, people are making double
more in those places,
the
yeah.
median income than the rest of Europe, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the median income of Europe as a whole, Luxembourg is double that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that, I mean, even though they're making more money, those costs are comparable to other cities.
Yeah.
People are making less money.
Or slightly better by 50 cents, a euro 50 per pint. So that was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying like, hey, go to Luxembourg and drink your head off. Don't do that.
No, I mean,
don't do that.
It's cheaper in Portugal if you're going to be drinking.
Well, for Sagres or Superbog.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but like a Guinness or something like that, yeah, you might pay. It's still cheaper in Portugal.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper in Portugal. One thing we didn't really dive too deep on in Luxembourg was housing prices.
Right.
Like, we didn't go window shopping as much. And in fact, I didn't notice as many realty offices as when you walk around other European cities. I don't know why that is. We saw a ton of development,
Right.
like a ton of new new buildings and huge buildings actually going up. But what did you all take note of that at all?
I didn't notice, actually, now that you say it.
Yeah, I didn't notice until you brought up that we never really, like, here in Portugal, you see like signs on houses like, oh, for rent, for sale. And like we saw in Luxembourg, maybe like 2 for sale or rent. And I think you made a comment about that. And then I noticed
After that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
true. Aside from housing, I think one of the coolest things that Luxembourg has
I know
going
what you're gonna
on
say.
is that public transportation is free.
Yeah.
And it's very clean. It is very efficient.
Very efficient.
And you don't have to worry about tapping or buying a ticket or figuring out what zone you're going into.
Or those darn security guards that get on and make you check your ticket.
Yeah. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. We actually arrived at a time when they had just opened up the direct connection between the airport and the rest of the city. So basically they had extended the T1, which is the main line for the metro or tram, whatever, from the city to the airport. So we were able to use that to get back to the airport. We took a bus one way
A bus
into
in,
the city.
tram out.
Yeah. So we were able to capture that.
But yeah, you don't have to worry about fiddling with coins or using your card, or do I get the ticket beforehand, or can I buy it from the bus driver? Do I tap somewhere?
Or just that cost as a tourist.
Yeah.
You just don't have to worry about it. Which also made me think to not even, it was a no-brainer to just take public transportation.
All the time, even if you weren't going that far. Like, we would leave the
One stop,
hotel.
two
And we would be
stops.
going one stop. It was like, oh, there's a tram coming in 1 minute. We might as well just wait. Because the one time we didn't, like 3 trams passed us, remember?
Yeah.
That's right.
Maybe we should have just taken the tram instead of walking to the next
Yeah,
stop.
but we also wanted to film. So
Yeah.
we wanted to film the bits in between the tram,
I know.
stops.
But yeah, it is a no-brainer to just jump on. And it's like they have a funicular as well. I mean, it doesn't go very far, but at least it gets you up and down. That's the other thing too. They have elevators because it is quite, you can't call it hilly, right? It's like, I mean, how would you call that? Like
There are
high
hills.
parts and low parts.
Yeah. There are level changes.
Big
Yeah.
level changes, right?
Yes.
So what's really nice is that they have elevators that go up and down
Yeah.
these places. It's
Yeah.
kind of like Andorra. Andorra had some of those as well. 'Cause
Yes.
Andorra had kind of the same in the city. It was the same idea where it's really big level changes.
Yeah.
And so instead of walking a bunch of stairs or ramps, I guess you could say, that are steep, they have these elevators, which that's amazing too.
Yeah.
And they were clean. Sometimes you get in an elevator in Portugal, you're not sure what the smells are going to be like. I didn't feel like it was like that at all
No.
in Luxembourg. But I don't even remember seeing people cleaning.
No?
They keep it clean, though.
Yeah, they do.
How do they do it?
I mean, I think that the public transportation there is phenomenal, and it's actually really cool that you can go to anywhere else in the country. We haven't done that yet. I think that'll be the next trip where we go and we actually check out some of the other parts, because the receptionist at the hotel was telling us that, many of the people that are like Portuguese expats or immigrants that are living in Luxembourg actually stay in the south, south of where Luxembourg City is. And, we were both like, when we were talking to her, we were both like, didn't know that. Didn't even know there was a south. I just thought it was all one. I mean, we knew it wasn't all one thing, because more to
You've
the.
seen a map?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
More to the west it looks like much more open land where there's more agriculture going on.
And north, too. North,
Yeah. But when she said south and she's like, rents are cheaper and everything like that, that was an interesting thing to hear about, that the Portuguese people are in the south of Luxembourg.
So next time we have to go to the south.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when we first came, when we did our first trip, we took a train from Germany. So we saw a little bit of that just being on the train. But then we've been in Luxembourg City both times.
Yeah.
So we need to explore the rest of the country. Although I think it's kind of known for skiing and stuff, right? And we're not much skiers, but.
Right. I want to go when it's warm,
summer.
when it's warmer. Yeah, summer maybe. Victoria, I wanted to ask you. We walked into a couple malls or shopping areas. What did you think of that? Because you made some remarks about that. So what did you think?
Yeah, well, I gotta say in Luxembourg they love their bridges because not only did we see them all over the city, but in the malls as well. The one mall we went into, it was just full of bridges. But I mean, obviously it looks really cool. It had the glass and the bridges. It actually reminded me of a mall that it also has like the bridges and the glass. I think it. I'm not gonna say where it's at because I know I'm gonna get it wrong. Um, but so it did reminded me a little bit of a mall in Portugal, but just like
Oh, okay.
10 times nicer.
10 times
Um,
nicer.
yeah, it was really nice. It was really
So,
nice.
like, what was so nice about it compared to the mall in Portugal? This specific mall that you're referring to, because I think
Yeah.
there are malls in Porto, for example, North Shopping, which is a nice mall.
Yeah. It's um I can't really explain it. Maybe just higher quality overall.
Okay.
It's some of the restaurants and stuff were just nicer quality for sure. But like the actual like architecture of it and the look was very similar, but like
Okay.
inside within was very different.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then what about last thing? What about for kids? What do you think? I mean, you were managing CM most of the time.
Yeah, so I think what was different than like there are some European cities that do really well where they just have these little pop-up playgrounds and all over the place. They're like small, so you just kind of turn a corner and it's like, oh, there's a little playground. It has like maybe one slide, one swing, but at least it's a little like place that you walk by that they can just pop out for like 10 minutes or so and play. Sia noted that we could not find many playgrounds, which I do agree.
Yeah.
And there's there was the one that looked really nice, but it was under construction. I think it's newer.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great space once it's open.
It'd be phenomenal.
But Luxembourg, the city has like big playgrounds situated in different places, but I think you have to intentionally go to them. So if you're just kind of walking around the city, you're not going to see any like little one that's like that is sufficient for like a little 10-minute like fun play thing.
Yeah.
You have to specifically go to the different ones, but they're big. The ones that you go to are big. So playground wise, it was decent because they existed, but they were kind of in weird spots, I guess you could say, that you had to specifically go to. But other than that, I mean, lots of people with kids. That seemed pretty easy, like walking around and
your kid will grow up multilingual for sure.
Yeah.
Like it will have to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good place for kids. As long as, if you're going to be paying for like international schools or something, that you have the money for that.
Yeah.
Because that's higher, but.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little about everything in this podcast episode. And this is more focused, I think, on travel, on tourism than living. And we're going to have a video on Expats Everywhere Explorers that's going to be more about living in Luxembourg versus traveling. So I'm not going to ask you, would you expat that? But I will ask both of you, would you visit Luxembourg again? Is it a place that you would go back to or double back to or nah? Victoria, go ahead.
I don't think so. I think I got a good enough feel of the city and what it has to offer in the few days that we were there. And to be fair, we were like walking around a lot. But I feel like satisfied, content with what I saw of the city. And so, yeah, I don't think I would go back.
Okay, fair. Kalie?
I think I would go back and like to explore more of the country. So seeing Luxembourg City would be okay. Probably more if we're with family or friends. Maybe not if it's just the three of us. You, me, and Sia, not Victoria. You could go back too. But if it's just just a few of us, maybe not. But friends or family would be okay. But then, yeah, exploring the different like outside of the city would be cool. What about you?
Yeah, I would definitely go back. I would go back. I think I agree with you in that it would be really nice to check out the rest of the country. Maybe if we were to go back during the summer, it would be 2 days in Luxembourg City and then a couple of days in, a few other locations.
Right. Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
I think I'd want to go back in the summer. Yeah, because like we've done the winter when it was like really cold, and then this spring was like cool, crisp, I guess fresh, like especially in the mornings.
Yeah.
Go out, that's it. Yeah, Victoria would say.
You never know if you needed a jacket, and then when in the day you're going to lose your jacket.
Right. So summer might be fun. So yeah, in the summer.
Yeah. All right, listener, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We appreciate you being here and having this chat with us. Victoria, thank you for going with us. It was fun filming with you. And we look forward to getting that content out to you, listener.